Hello, I'm Tony Piña, and I am Associate Provost for Online Learning at Sullivan University in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm also the current president of the Division of Distance Learning of the Association for Educational Communications and Technology, AECT, and I am so pleased to have been asked to provide this short little guest lecture on instructional designers from the point of view of administrators, faculty, subject matter experts, and industry leaders. Actually, in this presentation, we're going to reverse those, start with industry leaders and end up with administrators, but this way fit better on the slides, so that's why we put it that way. I'm going to be doing this presentation using Microsoft PowerPoint and a free add-on called Office Mix. I don't know if you're familiar with Office Mix, but it is free and it works very well with PowerPoint. Now you can get some more expensive paid things to use to do this, like Adobe Captivate, Adobe Adobe Connect, Camtasia, Articulate Storyline, etc. And we'll do similar things, but Office Mix is free. And I'm all about free stuff. So if you are too, check out Office Mix. And so let's go ahead and get started. Who am I? Well, that's a very good question. Why should you listen to me for the next 15 minutes or so? Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I attended ASU in the early 1990s, and I've had about 30 years of experience in the field of educational technology and distance education, and I love this field. So this is a wonderful opportunity for me to talk a little bit about it to you. I've had the privilege of being able to work at the K-12 level, also in industry training and development, and primarily in higher education. My jobs have given me the opportunity to serve in a lot of different functions and positions, often at the same time. So I have experience as an instructional designer, as both a corporate trainer and a trainer of faculty and teachers, as a multimedia producer, as a full-time and adjunct faculty member, and finally in my current role as a full-time administrator and part-time faculty member, because I believe that teaching allows me to be a better administrator. I'm also an author. I have written 3 books or co-edited a couple of those books, the 4th one on the way. And I've had right now about 50 publications and about 180 presentations at scholarly and professional conferences. I've also had the opportunity to be a professional consultant to Fortune 500 companies, small businesses, local government agencies, educational institutions, and also the U.S. military. So we're going to start our point of view from the point of view of industry leaders. And how do industry leaders view instructional designers? Well, many industry leaders recognize and value instructional designers. They know what they are, they know what they're supposed to do, and they have specific roles and tasks for IDs within their organizations. However, many do not. A lot of people in industry think that IDs are the same as trainers, and they don't really know the difference between an instructional designer and a trainer, because some IDs perform both roles. I know because I did. Many people in industry are what Dr. M. David Merrill has called designers by assignment. These are people who do not have any formal training in instructional design. So unlike you, they haven't had graduate level training in instructional design, educational technology, etc. They may have been performing in other roles, but now they perform as an instructional designer within their organizations, even though they haven't really been trained like you in it. Those are designers by assignment, and they're very common. So, as an up-and-coming instructional designer, How would you work with these kinds of industry leaders? Well, one of the best things you can do, and I can't give you everything in a very short presentation, so I'll give you little snippets of each of these areas and then give you an idea or two of what you can do to work within these areas. And so working with industry leaders, prepare yourself for a leadership role, because chances are, with the training that you have, you will likely be expected to oversee these instructional designers by assignment. So become skilled at the advanced IBSTIPI competencies. If you're not familiar with IBSTIPI, you can find those competencies in this book, which is called Instructional Designer Competencies. And one of the authors, editors of this book is Robert Reeser. And Robert Reeser he's at Florida State University, and he happens to be a graduate of a very good program in instructional design that's offered at Arizona State University. And so become familiar with the IBSTIPI competencies, particularly those at the advanced level, because chances are you will be asked to lead people and do so at an advanced level. Another thing that will be very helpful for you is to learn how to teach the ID principles that you are learning to non-IDs. So you will not only have to be a practitioner, but to be successful, you really need to become a teacher too, to teach ID principles so that people will understand the things that you do. Also, seek out training on leadership and further competencies, and talk to ID managers. See what they do, see what they know. Gather that information for yourself. Become very familiar with the IBSTIPI competencies. Now, I didn't have anything to do with this book, so it's not a self-promotion. If I was going to do something really, self-serving, I would probably show you my own books, but I'm not going to do that here. So becoming an ID leader doesn't mean that you can't still do ID. Chances are, even if you oversee other instructional designers, you will still have the opportunity to do plenty of instructional design yourself. Now, the next group that I'd like to talk about as far as perception of IDs are subject matter experts, often referred to as SMEs. Now, you'll find subject matter experts both in academia and in industry, and they serve a little different roles. Chances are, a lot of your subject matter experts at colleges, universities, and schools are going to be teachers and faculty, and they will have a little bit of a different, perhaps skewed vision of IDs, and we're really going to deal with that more in the faculty portion of our presentation here. So let's talk a little bit about more industry and maybe some newer SMEs that you'll find in academia. They might not know what to make of IDs. They really may not be familiar with what you do and what your role. So the role is unclear. The other issue with subject matter experts is who's in charge of this project. Is it my course that I'm putting online? Is it my training that I'm developing? Am I a work for hire subject matter expert and my job is just to provide content so I have no ownership? That really has a lot to do with what your relationship is going to be. And someone who has had a lot of experience in being a subject matter expert, one of the challenges may be that they try to do your job for you. They want to be kind of a pseudo ID and do both what they're doing, providing the content, etc., and also the course design, what you would be doing. So, how do you work with SMEs? One of the important things is to establish your roles at the very beginning. What is the role of the ID? What is the role of the subject matter expert in this particular project? Are you going to be the project manager and the subject matter expert is there just to provide content? Or is it that it's the subject matter expert's course and you're helping that person put the course online or something like that? New subject matter experts often need very specific guidance from the IDs, especially if they've never done this before. They may be pure subject matter experts, not academics, not people who teach. And so this is where you can perform job task analyses and things of that nature to extract their wisdom so that you can make training out of it, or you can make teaching out of it. So be very clear about, this is what I'm going to do, this is what you are going to do. And let them know that part of your job is to lighten their load, because otherwise they'd have to do this whole thing by themselves. But thankfully, they have somebody who has been trained in adult learning, trained in learner analysis, trained in objectives, trained in instructional strategies and assessment. And so you can do some of that heavy lifting in there, and they can provide the content. This is also an opportunity for you to exercise some leadership and project management. Because in academe, as we'll see, the ID is sometimes in we'll say a subordinate role, but in industry, often the SME gets to do a project management and is actually in charge of this. Well, at my institution, my IDs are project managers, and I put them in charge, so they have a lot more authority. And so take as much authority as you are allowed to have. Now, how about dealing with faculty? At colleges and universities, this is going to be a big deal, and one that a lot of you are going to have to deal with, particularly if you are not faculty members yourself. If you are a faculty member who is also serving as an instructional designer, that's a different relationship, because that's more of a peer relationship. And faculty are actually more apt to accept ID from a faculty member. But if you're not a faculty member, that's okay. It's just a complex relationship. Many faculty members, especially at universities where the faculty members are given a lot of power, authority, and autonomy, they often see instructional designers as subordinates. Well, they don't always have doctoral degrees, but even the IDs that do have doctorates, or even if you're in a K-12 or a community college where the faculty members might not have doctorates, they often see IDs as subordinates, and they're not exactly sure where we all fit. Like, are we administrative assistants? Are we teachers' assistants? Are we part of IT staff? And some faculty members see IDs that way. It may be wrong, but it's part of the culture that you need to know about. A lot of faculty members are in the realm of, I'm putting my course online. So you're here to help me put my course online. It's my course. I'm the big honcho. You're here to help me. And so those relationships can sometimes be a bit challenging because the faculty sees himself or herself in a primacy situation. The other issue is most faculty, as you know, have not had any formal training in learning and instruction. And so they get very testy with, and sometimes a bit intimidated by, instructional designers who have been trained in this. And the feeling is, well, are you trying to tell me how to teach? I've been teaching for years and all of this. Well, yes, but somebody may be teaching for years but still not know how students learn. And so that's a cultural issue as well. Now, the other thing that you may find very often, I did, was the faculty member who says, Tony, can you come and meet me in my office? And then they will have the instructional design project to work on. But they don't want their peers to know what they don't know. And this is the same thing with training. When I'd offer technology training, and the faculty members would say, well, can you just come to my office? Because they don't want their peers to know that they don't know this stuff. And so this is part of the complex relationship between instructional designers and faculty. Now, how do you work with that? Well, a lot of it, as I said, is influenced by the structure and culture of the institution. If the faculty really are the head honchos there, you're at a research university or at a university that may be heavy unionized, etc. Faculty are given a lot of power and authority, and you kind of have to work within that. And so one of the ways to do that is to always show respect. There is stuff that you know that they don't. And so how do you relate to that without seeming to be cocky or like an upstart? Well, one approach that has worked very well is, I have cool stuff to show you. You're an expert in all of this other stuff, but I get to go out and see all this cool stuff, and I just want to share that cool stuff with you. And so let's go into your office, and I can show you some of these fun things, and then you can decide what works for you. That has been a very successful approach working with faculty. And something you need to keep in mind, especially when you're dealing with kind of arrogant and know-it-all faculty, sometimes that arrogance actually masks insecurity. They know you know this stuff and they don't, but they don't want to seem like they're putting you at a higher level or even an equal level. That's just a pride issue, and again, it's something that you need to work with. And let me tell you, when you're dealing with faculty, when you're in their office or whatever, the most valuable thing you can do with faculty is to teach them instructional design principles. We know that they haven't had training in this. So as you're doing it, say, oh, I'm here to help you put your course online, for instance. This is how we do online development. What should your student know or be able to do at the end of this particular week? And then you use that to teach them about measurable objectives. So now that we know what they're supposed to know and be able to do in measurable ways, how do we assess that? What are ways in which we can measure this? And then, what is the best way to get from A to B? What are the instructional strategies we want to use? What is the media you want to use? Sound a little bit like the ADDIE framework, or maybe Dick and Carey, or one of those instructional design models? That's exactly what it is. But if we teach those principles to faculty members, they're going to get it. And I'll tell you, they will apply it to their face-to-face courses if you're working with an online, and their face-to-face courses will get better. And they'll say, hey, did you know that this stuff can be applied to face-to-face? Really? That's wonderful. Now, how do you deal with administrators? How do administrators look at instructional designers? Well, administrators, depending on whether you're a direct report or not, most administrators don't deal a whole lot with instructional designers. So they may or may not be familiar with who IDs are and what they do. And so very often they're unsure about the ID role and about the ID expertise, especially if these are administrators high up on the food chain, or deans or administrators in other areas of your institution, or administrators or principals, or depending on what type of environment you're in. I'm kind of assuming college and university, but that's not exactly true. But this is true of a lot of administrators. Some know ID, most do not. So how do you work with these administrators? Well, if you are a direct report to a particular administrator and they're not that familiar with instructional designers, well, this is a wonderful teaching opportunity. Keep them informed about what you do. Teach them about what instructional designers do. Teach them about instructional design and educational technology. And most of all, make them look good. Do cool stuff. Share it with them so that they know what they're talking about when they talk to higher up people or with their peers. Allow them to partner with you. Allow them to take some of the credit. Make them look good, and you will become indispensable. Now, if you're not a direct report to an administrator, then what you want to do is establish relationships and establish your reputation. Get on as many committees as you can. Make yourself high profile. Have that direct report supervisor bring you in on some meetings and introduce you to other people there, so that you can get a reputation as someone who is friendly, who is knowledgeable, and who is really pushing to improve the institution. And so these are just a few of the things that you can do to promote instructional design in the view of faculty, administrators, subject matter experts, and industry leaders. I hope that something that I have said has been a benefit to you, and I look forward to further communication with you in this course. Have a wonderful day, and maybe I'll see you in cyberspace. Hopefully, I'll see you at AECT. If you're coming to AECT, please come to the Division of Distance Learning things and introduce yourself to me. I'd really love to meet you.